Hi guys, and welcome to another one of my videos. And first of all, thank you for everybody who's subscribing and liking my channel. It means it's really appreciated. What I'm going to try and do is I'm try and get some more videos done, but with work schedules and things like that, it's quite busy at the moment. So that's why the videos aren't coming as quickly as they used to. But now I have some time. And I thought, because I've been getting a lot of queries about heating systems as we're coming to an end for summer, and that's what people are looking at now, is good efficient heating systems, especially with some of the new installs, new build houses that are being refurbished. That's what they're working on, that's what they're looking at. So I thought this is the perfect time to actually create a video to explain a few points, to explain how certain things work, and then of course to show you what I've been working on over the last 6-7 months as well, and perfecting the code to make a very efficient heating system. So let's not waste some time, let's get on with it. So first things first, I'm going to try and explain how the heating schedules actually work. The old days, they used to just turn a dial on your thermostat, the heating came on. When you didn't want it, the heating turned off, and pretty much that's it. But nowadays, with the advent of smart thermostats and things like that, we now work on time and set points. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of what we mean by set points. So here's a little crude picture that I made. So we have here temperature on the left and time on the right. This is a typical scenario that I use for myself. So overnight we have a set point of 15 degrees up till around about 7 a.m. At 7 a.m. till around about 8:30 a.m. I want a set point of 20. From 8:30 I'll drop it back down to about 18 degrees until around about 3 p.m. After 3, I want it down to around 21, 22 degrees, and all the way until around about 10:30 before settling back down to 15 overnight. So what does this actually mean? Well, when we say set points, what we're saying is we want the boiler, or in our case the thermostat, to regulate the temperature to the set point that we've created. So let's from 0 to 7 a.m. I want the temperature to be regulated at 15, which means that if the temperature drops below 15 degrees, that's when I want the boiler to fire and start heating again until it reaches 15 before switching off. That's what I mean. And then, so overnight, we hardly ever drops below that temp. So that's my personal set point. In the mornings, when we wake up, we just want a nice, comfortable, warm while we're getting ready for work, for school, etc. So I put the set point at 20, and then again it will regulate to 20, and then that's how it essentially works. So when we talk about set points, or when I come and see you and talk about set points, this is exactly what I mean by setting the different set points. It's how we're regulating the temp at a particular time. So we vary what temp the boiler, the thermostat will regulate at which point of the day. If you make an amendment, say I've come in, say I'm not working a particular day, and I'd rather have it a little bit warmer, and so I choose around about 9 o'clock or just after 9, and I decide to turn it to 20 odd degrees. What does that mean? Well, I'll show you. Here in red. So normally we had that black line here to show that it would regulate it at around 18 all the way to 3 p.m. But instead, at around 9, half 9, I've upped it to around 21, 20 odd degrees. What I mean, it means that the new set point will now be regulated at this new red line around 20 odd degrees. And it will carry on doing that until either I put it back down again, or the next set point it reach. In our case, at 3 p.m. the new set point is reached, and then the old program takes over. So when you do override it, it doesn't override it forever. It only overrides it until the next set point that you've created. So with this as well, you can actually do manual overrides. It just doesn't work on the heating side. It also works on the opposite effect. So if I wanted to say, if the heating did actually come on and I didn't really want it on, I could have dropped the line down instead and put a different set point. So yeah, it works either way, but you've got to remember that the next scheduled set point will always take over. Next, so I'm hoping that's pretty clear as to how that works and how the set point work. Next, we come on to how to control them with smart technology. We've all heard of nests and things like that. So this is the example of the Nest thermostat. Again, what we do, once it's installed, it's a standalone product, and once it's installed, you control the temperature, set the programs and set points, and leave it be. The advantage is you can still override it using your mobile phone. Another example of set point of a smart thermostat is the Hive version. Again, works on exactly the same principle. You create your set points, you create your timers, and you can still have smartphone control over it. It just creates a single schedule. So if you're going away, you can always switch it off, but it only creates a single block of schedules. So you can't, if you wanted to, in either of these cases, if you wanted to create one for say school days and one for school holidays, you would have to then manually go back into the program, into the settings, and amend your set points and your timers. So this is smart, but compared to what I'm going to show you, not that smart. So when I do home automation, Z-Wave home automation, so for Fibaro to control it, we usually use what we call the secure stat, which looks like this. It looks like the old original traditional style of thermostat. The difference being this is controlled using the home automation system. So again, we can create our own set points just like we did before. The difference is we can create multiple groups of set points. You can create one for say when the kids are at school, then you can create a completely different schedule for when it's the school holidays. You can then create another schedule for even holidays. So while you're away, if you just want some ambient heating on running, you can create a third program. So this way, with the home automation system, you can actually then create multiple sets of programs to run and create your set points, rather than sticking to just a single set with the Nest or the Hive. But here at we're all about efficiency and heating efficiency. So how do we make our systems better? Right, I will then now show you a picture which I'm looking for. Here's my little plan drawing of a house. You've got your hallway, you've got your rooms here. So in this scenario, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 rooms, the hallway, and your thermostat that you would normally put in. Typically, in most properties, this is what you would see. The thermostat's usually in the hallway. If you've got a single thermostat for the whole house, it's usually in the downstairs hallway. If you have what we call a 2-zone system, where you have separate heating for downstairs and a separate heating for upstairs, just think of this twice over, one upstairs, one downstairs, but the principle's exactly the same. So in our little diagram earlier on, we were looking at set points. Where does temperature measurement actually take place? Well, it actually takes place at the point of where the thermostat is installed. So to measure the temperature, so this room's radiator comes on because this is cold. Doesn't matter whether this room is warm or not warm, any of them. If this area in the hallway is cold, then the boiler will fire, it will turn on, and it will start heating the whole house, or every radiator. So yes, thermostats are good, but they don't offer the most efficient way. We get away by making it more efficient by adding what we call TRV valves to each of the radiators, which you can then adjust manually, which you've all seen. You can adjust manually with the settings of 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, and then what that does, it actually helps to maintain a set temperature. So when the boiler fires, if a particular room is warm, the the TRV valve cuts off and it doesn't heat that room anymore. That's good. That's making it even smarter. But we want to make it even smarter, as we want to be more efficient. We want the system to recognize when somebody's in the room. We want to create our own set points per room, because somebody might be too warm, somebody might be too cold, and once you set those TRVs manually, you have to effectively manually change them again yourselves. So what we've done is I've done what we call a true multi-zonal heating system. What do I mean by that? Well, this is what I mean. So this is our typical house again. We get rid of the thermostat, which I forgot to remove from my picture. And what we do is we've got these motion sensors, multi-sensors I should call them, in every room anyway, as part of my alarm system. But not only do they do motion, they also do temperature. We then add in Z-wave TRV valves to each radiator. So rather than manual, we can now have full control over them as well. So what do we do? Well, think back to the set point program we did. What we do then is we create set points as we would normally do, but instead of specifying just one area, we can actually then individualize the rooms. So I can have this room at say 20, that one at 19, that's at 22, or this one's at 15, because it's not being used that often. The sun for us rises from the front but sets at the back of the house, so most of the day this side of the property is always a lot warmer than the front of the property. So we can offset the different set points by mimicking the same thing. We don't have to put a higher set point there, we just keep it lower. So the advantages are that we're able to then control the set points individually for individual rooms and anywhere, and it just doesn't have to be an example I've shown here with 5 zones. It can be as many zones, as many rooms as needed. But we went even one step further. Because we have motion sensors in every room, we decided to use a bit of occupancy checking as well. So what happens is we've got our set points, the temperature goes below our set point, the signal sends to the boiler and sends to the TRV. So open my TRV valve up and fire the boiler up, start heating, and then this room gets warmed up. The others stay cold. But this room's actually empty, and I don't really need heat in this room. So why would I want to heat an empty room? That's where the multi-sensor comes in, because just before it sends a signal across to the boiler and the valve, it actually checks, is this room actually occupied? If it's occupied, it will then do everything it needs to do to warm up the room. But if the room is empty, what's the point of heating up an empty room? So we've gone one step further. I have set a differential, a time, a time window of 15 minutes. So in the preceding 15 minutes, as long as there's been movement, it will send the signal to fire. If there hasn't been any movement for 15 minutes, then it will switch off the boiler and it will not trigger the boiler at all. 15 minutes, I've set 15 minutes due to my personal, that's the way I wanted it. But also, because once you're in the room, it'll detect motion. And the key to it is motion needs to be continually detected for that 15-minute timer to remain intact and not count down to 0. So if you're like me, I tend to fidget around every 10 minutes or so when I'm watching a movie. And so therefore I can keep the sensor triggered within that 15-minute time window. So depending on how you watch or how many people are in the room will also then depend on how much this sensor gets triggered, where you place the sensor, etc. So you've got to factor that in when you do decide your timing schedules. But that's the way mine works, and it's been working flawlessly for the last 8 months since I've had it installed at the beginning of the year, tested, and throughout the summer it has never come on, apart from one of my rooms is the kitchen, where it is a little bit cooler, and that's the only room that ever gets fired up to work. The rest don't. Now let's talk about controls, because controls is also important. Not only we set the timers up to turn the boilers on, to turn the heating on in each room, we also need to have a way of controlling the temperature so that we can still have manual control. Well, that's not a problem either, because we have created what's called these little remote thermostats. So every room has got one of these. So this is it. So this one's for the cinema room. It tells you the current temperature as measured by the multi-sensor. It's also the current set point, and then of course you can adjust the set point by just pressing these buttons. So I have now effectively overridden my program. You know, the way back to the first slides I showed you, I've now changed my set point to 17, so it'll now regulate at 17. Conversely, I can do the opposite. I can make it go up. I'll have it a little bit warmer, please, and it will redo the set point. So until the next set point temperature is reached, it's going to now maintain it at 19 degrees. So I've done that not just for this room, but we've got it for all rooms. So we've got the front room, the cinema room, etc., back room, kitchens. So all these set points are all set up, including the hallways. I've also done is I've created these little widgets. Boiler status. What that does is here it lists all my zones. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 zones. And here it states, and I can, at a glance, I can quickly see which rooms are hot, which rooms are cold, and therefore if the boiler is running. My initial system was only a 2-zone system, downstairs system and upstairs system. So for me, these are just informational to let me know which one's fired. But here, I can see that every room is hot, it's not cold, and therefore the boiler's not going to fire. And also a secondary widget I've created is the whole house heat widget. So what that does is when I click on it, not only can I view all 11 zones current temperatures, I can then also adjust the set points in each different room just by clicking on the room name and then just adjusting the set point by hitting the plus or the minus. What that means is it just means that I don't have to go into each individual rooms, and I can just adjust it manually. And what I've also done is the kids have got their own, because they can log in themselves with their own usernames and passwords. They've got access to their own rooms, so they can adjust the temperature in their own room themselves, not having to rely on me to adjust it. I also have the global timing system, which sets the set points at the preset times for the different rooms, but then you can have the manual override if you want to have them. So I'll find out properly in around about February-March time how much money I've saved on my heating bills compared to the previous year, as that's when the system was implemented, and it's been running like that ever since. But what I can say is whenever any particular room has gone cold, then boiler only needs to fire for about 15 minutes or 20 minutes, and it's back up to temperature again, and that's it. So rather than wasting heat, it only heats the rooms that it needs to heat up. So there you have it, folks. If you want to know more about how we can set this up for you, feel free to give us a call, and we can do this for you. So if you like the video, please like. If you haven't subscribed, please do. And hopefully we'll see you soon again. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.